the beginning, storks delivered babies.
So the story, it's about a world where storks used to deliver babies. It was very difficult to do that, and so they switched, and they now deliver for a company called CornerStore.com. And in the movie, what happens is there's an orphan named Tulip, who's a human woman who's just turned 18, who has been left behind on Stork Mountain. When she was a baby, her map beacon was destroyed. It was accidentally destroyed, and so they don't know where to deliver her. So she's grown up on Stork Mountain, and she's played by Katie Crown. And then there's a stork named Junior, who's played by Andy Samberg, who's about to be named boss. And the only thing he has to do is fire Tulip in order to be named boss. Meanwhile, there's a family, and there's a kid named Nate who wants to have a baby brother to have someone to play with. And so he writes a letter to Stork Mountain. When Junior's about to fire Tulip, he can't bring himself to, and he puts her kind of in the mailroom, which no longer really works because no one sends mail to Corner Store. And Nate's letter arrives, and Tulip accidentally makes a baby, and then Junior and Tulip have to deliver the baby without anyone finding out. So that's the kind of the story. There's definitely like a big touchstone for me was Raising Arizona, where all the characters who meet the baby kind of fall in love with the baby, and one of the groups that they meet are these wolves, who are played by Jordan Peele and Keegan Michael Key. And when the wolves meet the baby, at first they want to eat the baby, then they fall in love, and then they decide they want to try to raise the baby for themselves. I think that the emotional journey that the characters go on is very relatable, whether you have kids or not, whether you want to have a family or not, and so there's kind of a strong emotional spine about finding your family. I think that audiences like weird humor. They like to be surprised. I think one of the I've done it in the movies that I've directed, the R-rated comedies that I've done. There's a lot of weird jokes that get big laughs, and as long as the emotion is honest, I think the audiences will go to strange places with you. And so it wasn't there are certainly jokes that we tried and fell flat, but for the most part we had a pretty high batting average just because the story that we're telling is pretty relatable in its own bizarre way. I've loved Andy Samberg forever. His voice has so many different. He kind of is almost a cartoon character in real life. In a certain way. Like he's so funny. He has so many different modulations to his voice, and he can play a certain thing, which is the cocky guy that you still like, which is a very hard thing to play. And so that was like likable cocky guy is very hard, and he's really good at it. And so then that was from an early stage the conception of Junior, that he is like really successful in business, he's successful in work. He might be lonely because he doesn't have a family, but he doesn't know that. And Andy like hit that perfectly. I have to say I didn't know a lot about animation. I mean, I've written animation stuff, but I've never been this involved in something. And that's all, Warner's. That's Greg Silverman and Chris DeFaria, who's the head of their Warner kind of animation and visual effects departments. He assembled this team, and I didn't understand how talented the group was for a while. Because I just wasn't as aware of the animated world, But like, everyone from Brad Lewis, who's the producer, who he was a director on Cars 2, and he produced Ratatouille and among other and Ants. He's been around for a long time, and also is incredible at lighting. So he did a lot of the lighting look of the movie is insane, and that's Brad. Usually the producer doesn't also do lighting, but he did, and then John Venson, who's the editor on the movie, is again a brilliant guy. These are all people that I didn't know. They assembled them, and I was like, whatever. They're animation people. I didn't understand. Doug Sweetland, again, I learned was like kind of a legend within animation circles for his animation design. Then the story department, headed by Craig Barry and Matt Flynn, both had worked on Lego Movie and among many others. And you really, these are the people who build the movie, and these are the people who I've gone to college with Storks with, and I learned a ton from them, about how to kind of about story and also visual stuff. You're telling the story much more visually when you're working in animation, and it was really cool to I would write something or record something, and then the story team would add a whole other element to it, and then when it went to animation, Doug would add a whole other element to it. So it was very cool. I think it is about finding your family. That really is, all the characters are finding their family in a different way. They're literally bringing the baby to find her family. Tulip is looking for her family, and even though she kind of has a family that she doesn't even realize, she has quasi been adopted by the Storks but doesn't realize it. Junior at the very, is looking for a family that's not just his whole life is about work, and he's kind of looking for a family. So it really is like I think that is the theme of the whole movie if I was going to summarize it.